Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated.
Today, on a very special Nerkie, Chris, Kyle, and Justin discuss their feelings on episode 5 of WandaVision.
I have so many feelings. So many feelings
I've
about
got
this.
feelings.
All up in my feelings.
Nothing more than...
I know
I thought that
got
song was about
feelings.
dentistry, and I was wrong. Feelings.
Well,
nothing more
It
than
still could be.
feelings.
Well, it could be.
I should have saved
Don't-
my funny
don't-
for somewhere a little further into the show instead of the very beginning.
Yeah, instead of the beginning, now you've wasted. You're spent.
I blew my funny.
I
Okay,
thought you
so
You're done.
yep, that's it. That's all I got. Ah, it's episode 5.
Well, with now that Kyle has blown his funny at the beginning,
You're welcome.
He has a problem with premature
Mhm.
funny. Well, welcome to Everyman's Guide to Nerdom. We are two 30 to 40 something year olds who talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle, and you might know us online as Guyver and K-Sig. And once again, we have our very special guest, Justin, with us because he keeps getting the code to the meeting somehow. So there he is again.
I've been taking him off, but he keeps getting it.
That's what happens when
Yep.
you hack Chris's computer.
That's not the
which
only
is
thing that
very
happens.
easy to do.
That's another episode that we can't air.
That is another episode. There's a picture
Yeah.
of Justin just literally with his hair flowing.
We would get
That's
so
it. That's
many
my
views and
background.
listens. Just Fabio hair going
So
through the air.
many views.
Repeating
I'm trying
that
to grow my hair back
algorithm.
out.
Yeah,
My
ladies
algorithm.
and gentlemen, he's been trying for about 6 years to grow that hair back out.
It'll get there. How's your
Um,
beard doing?
So today, it's good, thank you. This is like a month, and this is almost 2 months.
The running thing. Can always come back with that.
It's so sad. You know what? It'll be shaved at some point. I'm just too lazy to do it right now.
Detail style, right?
Yeah.
Don't do the monkey tail.
Uh,
For the love of God, don't
that
do the monkey
that was
tail.
a good one, sir. I'm gonna do the monkey tail. I
No.
just needed to get a little bit more full.
No.
So like in another 6 months.
Please don't.
If you haven't you haven't figured it out, we're doing another Nerkie. A Nerkie is a nerd quickie. Our Nerkies have not been Nerkies. But damn it, they have been so much fun to talk about that we haven't wanted to do real Nerkies. So
Mhm.
Nerkie just may be a code for bonus episodes. That's the second one we record in the week. So
Cool.
basically, Kyle and I dedicate at least 6 hours to this at a minimum a week.
Yeah.
And we're sad pandas because we just figured out we dedicate 6 hours a week to this.
I think we're most excited about doing these, especially for WandaVision. Well, one, WandaVision's freaking cool. And 2, it's something new
Yep.
and it's relevant. And we don't have to think back to 2 years ago of things that happened because we watched it, a couple of days ago. So it's still fresh in our memory, which the memories aren't so good anymore. That's why I like it, because I feel
To
relevant.
be fair, though, we relevant. We love our podcast. Don't get us wrong. We love the podcast, or else we wouldn't still be doing it. We're 7 episodes in right now at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
The most recent one's the MCU Part 1, where we only got through one movie. But damn it, we got a lot to say.
We got feelings to
a
get
lot
out.
to say. If you're so for all 26 viewers, listeners who have listened to us, or what's funny is we have like over 100 views on the YouTube page. I think we're getting more than on the podcast, which I'll take it.
It's probably glorious editing that's happening.
Or it could be, or I could have hit repeat on it and just keep watching the same episode over and over again.
The Googles are listening. They'll dock our numbers.
They'll dock our numbers.
No, they were listening. My phone just flashed
So,
on. It heard me.
WandaVision.
No.
You're gonna get something on Facebook now about doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
God, I hope so.
so good. Episode 5, WandaVision. I am just thrilled to talk about this one because WandaVision has done nothing but just go uphill. Like it wasn't even like a gradual build for me. It started off kind of like, episode 1, just kind of driving along. You're driving along. You got new guy in the back seat puking his brains out. You know the movie. They're Yates. You know the movie. But then all of a sudden, starting with, I would say halfway through 1, 3/4 through 1, just starts shooting up, and then it just goes uphill from there.
Yep.
And I love this damn show, and I love talking about it. It's just fun, and we've already decided. So the Super Bowl was last night, so Kyle and I heard.
Yeah.
Justin's told us, B-Rob's told us, other people have told us something happened, someone won. Apparently it was big.
There's some commercials.
There's commercials. People paid a lot of money for commercials
or something, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, weekend update, and apparently like extreme meme close-up.
Mm-hmm.
But
somebody saying,
what they sing? Was it Zestfully Clean?
a bunch of songs.
I love that one.
Someone gave a poem. It was good. It wasn't.
It was good.
There was lots of different forms of art culminating in a great night.
Which we're actually not really knocking this. We knew it was the Super Bowl, as Justin liked to remind us multiple times. But that's another form of nerdism, I think, too, is a sports nerd or a football nerd. So we'll cover that. We'll definitely cover that just later down. And we'll get people who actually know more about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe Justin. Like Kyle and I still think you take a slap shot in football.
Well, that's whenever someone makes a good play, you slap shot their butt. So that is something.
Well, I know that one. You go up and give them a good game or an attaboy.
Yeah, so that is part of football.
See?
I think it'd be interesting to incorporate fantasy football, maybe some betting and some different aspects of the nerdom that has really blown up over the past probably 10 to 15 years and has really taken football to a whole new level, I think, as far as fan involvement and everything else. You look at DraftKings and a lot of those other sites that are, multi-billion or $1 million companies that that all feeds into it as well. So yeah, I think very easily there's a long episode ahead of you with that.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, just fantasy
I'm down.
football in general. Like you're looking at stats, you're building your team off your stats, and yeah, it's we'll definitely do one of those. I'm not totally
that might be
foreign.
a
I
good
used to
one
play
for-
back in the day, Christopher. Don't loop me in there. I just
With them
don't watch anymore.
He used to play Tecmo Bowl. That's what he used to do.
I did.
Hey, don't knock the Tecmo Bowl. That was the best.
Oh, yeah.
The Raiders. If you pick the Raiders,
Get the Raiders, get
You
Bo
gotta-
Jackson, you're set.
yeah.
So
The Hail Mary.
pick the Bears and then play Singletary on defense, and you rush every time.
Yeah.
Bo doesn't know what hit.
Bo still know stuff.
Well, and that was accurate because that's what Singletary in like 91, 92. Singletary was a bad man. No, it was earlier. Yeah, it was around then.
John Singletary, wasn't he in Boys in the Hood? Or directed it?
You're thinking about his cousin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Smirk.
WandaVision.
So hey, you know what? I just noticed you got a pop filter. Justin's making it big time now.
He is
Oh,
moving
I've-
up.
Had it since I've had the new mic. I just had the mic out of reach. So,
Gotcha.
but I figure it's better to sound good than to not have the bottom of a mic and camera. So
Oh, it didn't matter. Everyone knows that we got mics. So
Yeah.
you do sound really good. You look good too.
Oh, thanks.
Stop.
All you audio people,
WandaVision.
you need to be checking the video.
Yeah. They will be. Why is it paused on this one moment on YouTube? Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
WandaVision, episode 5. I promise we're gonna get to it.
Wrangle the squirrels.
Effing exciting because this episode poses a hell of a lot more questions than it answers.
Oh man, I disagree. I think, well, I mean, it does pose a bunch of questions, but what I like is that it answered so many questions that we had from the week previous, and that episode answered questions from the week previously. So it's not necessarily like a loss to where it just answers questions with more questions, but it actually does give us some concrete, and we're going to get to some of them here, but about Vision, and it opened up like, oh, okay, now I know who and what this thing is that we're seeing in the show. And so I disagree in the sense that I think it's trying to answer questions. It's trying to give us information, unlike some other shows in the past, where they just want to keep you on that hook. And they do open up some different questions for sure, but I think they're actually doing the fan service quite a bit by answering these questions and giving you a little piece here and a little piece there.
See, I'm still gonna respectfully disagree with you on that,
Oh.
and I agree with a lot of that.
That's
But
okay.
I think that I agree with you. It completely answers questions. He turned his back on me.
He was rolling
That
away.
bastard. Yeah. Oh, pout, you big baby. It does answer a lot of questions, and Justin is correct in that it answers questions from previous episodes. I
that
love
brought him
that.
back.
I'm back.
Yeah, that brought him back. He heard he was right. But at the same time, I think that it opens up more questions and possibilities because we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my point. It's not that it's open-ended questions. It's just like we know it's leading up to the multiverse. We know that. I think this is kind of like a multi-facet question. Like one question is answered, but then like for me, 3 more are opened up. And that's what's, I think, just driving me nuts most of all. Kyle, you look like
I'm just going to disagree with both of you so I can be in a whole different position. No, I think it's we're getting answers, but I don't think the conspiracy nut that is deeply ingrained in me is thinking that we're getting some red herrings, some false flags, some things that are like, okay, that's probably the answer, but there's still enough doubt left in a lot of things to make you wonder. It's like, well, this seems almost too obvious to be right. And then you get your brain going and you're thinking, okay, well, what about this? What about this? And with Marvel's history of everything having a purpose, especially with them being so Easter egg driven and foreshadowing all these little things, you start looking at like what we're going to do tonight, frame by frame, every little thing. You're going to start making weird random connections. The thing that was going around, about Darcy's like, oh, Darcy's lipstick's red. Red's on the camera. Darcy's Mephisto. Stuff like that.
I love Darcy.
I freaking love Darcy.
So
okay, I've done it. And we'll talk about it tonight because I've already told you guys ahead of time, like some of my weird random connections that I've started making that probably mean absolutely nothing, but by God, I'm going to stand on that hill. So
with that, let's dive into the episode.
Yep.
So we recap episode basically 3 and 4 in that. There's bits of 3, there's bits of 4. And they're just talking about the spikes in power and everything, and then it ends with Monica going, it was Wanda. It's all Wanda. And then it cuts into the title scene.
So one thing I read was something that Elizabeth Olsen actually sent out on Instagram or Twitter. She sent out on Twitter and pointed out that if you watch each of the previously on, when she says previously on,
Mm-hmm.
every episode as it continues, it gets more sober the way that she says it. So, the first one, the
Oh,
previously on WandaVision, and this
right.
episode was previously, so as it's going on, um, she's getting more sober in the way that she's presenting this, which I think means that she's becoming more cognizant that what's going on. And if you also watch a couple of the recaps, I think it was either episode 5 or episode 4, but when it talks about Geraldine, it totally changes what Wanda says in there to Vision, because in the episode it says, "Oh, she had to go home," and
Mm-hmm.
that she didn't have a home. But in the recap it says, "Oh, she had to leave," and so
I
she's
didn't catch that.
even
Hmm.
changing. So even these recaps are part of that meta idea of what Wanda is doing this reality, because she's the one recapping this. She's the one that's sending this out. So we're seeing her version of each of those. And
You
so
think
even the recap, Marvel's has their little tentacles all in all that too, which is awesome.
little things changing like that? You think that's a subtle jab at themselves as far as like retconning some things, and that's not what was said last week. It was said this way, or this is the way it should have been said. Or, it could be a little, because retconning is going to become a big, I think, as we go further into this and further into phase 4 and phase 5. And um, I've been watching a lot of the Fox X-Men this week, so retconning is on the brain right now.
But I think it's symbolic also of how she wants us to remember, how she wants us to think that things went down, even though we saw it. It's just like somebody like Vision of what he's going through in this episode, to where we question it, but then we watch that recap and go, oh, maybe I got that wrong. And so she's hoping through this recap that you just kind of brush over some of the things that she did wrong.
Yeah.
So it's all part of everything that's going on with Vision as well.
I agree. So we pan out to the house, which has changed again, changed colors. It's green now. A like cedar fence around it. Cool fact. This is Clark's house, the Griswold's house now.
Really?
Yep. So I'm just waiting for Vision to turn on all the lights and Todd to ask Margot why the carpet's all wet.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it was other way around.
A few packaged cats.
Yeah.
Vision finally figures out how to leave. He hops in the car and Holiday Road is playing, and Christy Brinkley is actually in the town.
And, Herb is telling him the shitter's full.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it is, it's the Griswold's house. So where they film this, it's it's this set of houses that they film almost everything at, like with Disney and whatnot, and those companies. So a lot of the houses are going to be the same. But yeah, this is the Griswold's house. So fun fact. Yeah. So what I loved about the beginning of this is super 80s. The minute it pans out into this, you got red chairs, you got the staircase which leads up with like this very 80s carpet on the stairs, and it's the kind of carpet that doesn't cover the whole stairs. It's just like like the narrow part of it,
the runner,
yeah. And then Wanda walks out carrying one of the twins who's crying. And the first thing that hit me when I did this, the way her hair is and the little suit she was wearing, it's Michelle Tanner. That is the very first thing that hit me. I think that was kind of a nod to her sisters.
You think so? Because wasn't that 80 or wasn't that 90s though?
That was late 80s, early 90s.
I
was
bet we'll
thinking-
see some more of that in the '90s run, like big. I hope we do.
Oh yeah.
But she's trying to calm the baby, and here's the thing that you'll notice about Billy and Tommy too. Well, we'll get to that after this because right now they're wearing the same thing. They're both wearing the blue outfits, and I'm going to be going through my notes here that I took during this too. Vision is in his Vision form, as a dad, but wearing the most 80s iconic plaid with the shorts, even down to the belt. If you notice the belt was very 80s. So I mean, they really spared no expense in making this accurate.
I think
To
I
me,
have that
that's-
shirt actually.
I think you do too. I think I've actually seen you wear that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, ladies, if someone please go out with Kyle, please, help him get a new shirt.
Don't limit his options. Don't just. So anyone that would like to go with Kyle.
I have 5 shirts on rotation.
Brag.
Good.
Lucky.
Over here,
So
my 5 shirt money. That's cool.
5 shirt money. So, you remember how we talked about how the hexagon was a big thing in these?
Yeah.
If you look on the table, I believe there's like a little box that's a hexagon shape too, on the end table by the remote. And I don't know if this plays into anything, but if you look at the stained glass windows that go up by the stairs, they seem to be like some sort of star. It could just be, part of the 80s at the time. But I don't know if that represents anything.
I was really drawn to the stained glass on the front door and the pattern of that, and I could not figure out what, if that's something, or if it's just, like we said, and it's just stained glass and Marvel's got in our head now that everything's something.
Yeah, my parents have a glass door kind of like that. Not stained glass, just regular glass, but it's in a shape somewhat like that. And I think it's just
Just the pattern.
a pattern, and because they have had it since I think the late 80s, early 90s. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that's within the architecture of that time.
And one thing
But it
you'll
could-
notice, and I know you guys are probably going through, like we're all going through frame by frame on another screen right now as we're looking at this. Every single scene, every single frame in the Westview world right now, if you pause it, or as you're watching, you pause it, it's the entire Westview situation. It's oversaturated. The video's oversaturated, slightly red. Every time you pause
Oh, it is,
you're
isn't it?
going to notice that it's got a slight red oversaturation to it, and that has to be on purpose.
Hmm.
It's very subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah,
Right.
that'll make a whole lot more sense whenever later in this episode, whenever Wanda comes out, and then what she does to the barrier
Oh yeah,
as she goes back in. So that definitely makes sense.
I can't. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Good call. So basically, they put the twins down for a nap, and they are just crying. Anything that Wanda does, she cannot get them to stop. And I mean, these kids were actually just screaming at the top of their lungs. And Wanda tried, I believe she tried to use hex power on them, didn't she?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And nothing happened, which brings us back to our theme that Wanda's hex power can't actually affect living things that we know of, like control their actions.
We do find out how she's controlling people's minds in this. So,
I got something on that when we get to it.
okay.
Yeah, I've got.
Does it,
An
does it
interesting
tie in right
theory.
here?
It doesn't tie in right here. It ties in later when Vision goes back to the office, and it's something that I came across.
Gotcha. Okay.
Researching all the freaking theories like crazy, and a cool one was pointed out.
But she can't. So she either can't control living things or can't control children.
Well, who can?
I don't know, but that's what we find out
accurate.
here, and we don't know at this point. And she is just trying to figure out what's going on, and then Vision comes out with 2 binkies in his ears. Which dads, we've all been there, so don't act like you haven't been. They give him the binkies, and quiets them down for a sec. Then, of course, classic like 80s fashion. You don't see anything but the binkies fly out and hit Wanda and Vision. They start screaming again. And they're just, they're new parents. They're frustrated. They're new parents of 8-hour-year-olds, however old the kids are now. Why is this important? Well, this is important because all of a sudden Agnes comes in wearing the most 80s jazzercise outfit ever.
Just looking fabulous.
Looking fabulous. Why is this important? Because Agnes always seems to know when there's trouble.
Yeah.
She always appears when something is not right in that house.
Yeah.
Which makes us think, okay, there's more to Agnes than meets the eye.
And Vision even says, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." Ding dong. And Agnes comes in. And so, yeah, and he even addresses this here in a bit about that. So, but man, she can rock a leotard. Oof. Cat her.
Yeah.
God bless her.
Yeah.
So we were looking at Agnes at this point. I didn't spot the brooch. Did you guys at this point in time? I did later, but not on this part. It's somewhere on there because she always has it on her.
Is it in the back of her hair?
See, I don't know. That's where I couldn't find it.
Okay. Oh, I can't tell if that's the back of her.
Maybe her earring. Hold on, I'm looking at it right now.
I kind of thought it might have been the earring too.
It looked like it
And
may
Vision-
be in her left ear. Yeah, possibly. You see
Possibly
a quick
left ear.
flash of it.
And this is where, how in previous episodes 1 through 4, it took a while to get going. Everything's normal, everything's scripted, everything's the television show. Not the hell in 5. We are 3 minutes and 42 seconds into it. Agnes said, "Here, let me hold the kids. I'll hold them. I'll rock, I'll get them to stop crying." She goes to get them, and Vision says, "No." Simply no. And this takes Agnes, she's just taken aback. And all of a sudden, she starts kind of whispering to Wanda, do you want me to take this from the top? Do we need to, what did she say? Do we need to take this from the top? Do we need to start over?
Want me to take that again?
I'm going to take that again. Like Agnes knew she was in a scripted show. Not scripted, but everything was laid out.
Right.
Predetermined, predestined.
Do you think that that signifies that Vision said something that he wasn't supposed to, and therefore it's a nod to Wanda losing control of Vision?
Absolutely.
Leads to what's going to happen here in a bit.
Absolutely.
And it threw Wanda off too.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, and it broke her concentration more.
Yeah.
And this goes back to Vision he's going off script. He knows something isn't right. And he's trying to protect it. He's like, no, don't touch my kids. We'll take care of them. We're the parents. I think that's all that Vision meant there. But it just threw Agnes off. And then we're just sitting there wondering what's going on. And she keeps, like, the funny ha-ha stopped.
And if you look to the laugh track and everything that's going on in the actual show, it's eerily quiet. Like everything just stops. There's no dog barking outside or someone mowing, or there's no laugh track. Like everything is dead silent as she's staring at Wanda and Wanda's staring at her, and it's eerie AF.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tone just gets very, very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Somber, maybe
Maybe somber. It's almost more ominous, I think.
Yeah.
because Vision and Wanda are just looking at each other like, what the hell's going on? What is she talking about? And then she finally gets her to basically get back on script and says, yeah, no, of course you can. And then Agnes's face just changes to this, that Agnes smile, and they share a laugh, and all is well with the world again, and the laugh track starts again. And then Agnes does the exaggerated motions. And then to me, she says one of the most iconic lines of the entire episode. Oh, and when she's rocking the kids, she's doing like a jazzercise. She's working out while she's doing it. So just like, like an 80s sitcom. One of the most oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it reminds me of Mona from Who's the Boss.
Oh, yeah.
Like everything Mona did was some like kind of sexual in nature. And
mm-hmm.
When her rocking a baby, she's bending over and showing us all the good stuff.
Sounds like Justin enjoyed this version of Agnes the most.
Did on slow-mo.
I paused. I like this version of Agnes. I'll go there.
But then Agnes says the most, I think, iconic line in the entire episode that sticks with me the whole time. She's spraying them with, was it lavender?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because lavender's got a calming effect. And Agnes says, you can't control children. And to me, that set the whole tone of the episode, because, again, Wanda was trying to use her hex powers on them. She couldn't control them. Which means to me, there's something about these miracle babies, these little sea monkeys, that Wanda has no control over whatsoever. I mean, it's obvious when they went from newborn infants to,
10-year-old.
they're still infants.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, just from newborns to infants.
Mm-hmm.
So like from, just being born to, what do you say? I would say at least 6 months on this.
Roughly.
Give or take.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Agnes is like, let's break out the whiskey. And what'd she say it was for? It was for the kids, right?
Yeah, she's looking for the dark liquor. And she goes, yeah, it's for the kids. It's not for me because I'm not a terrible babysitter, however she phrased it.
So that to me, like, I don't remember that in any 80s episode, but it might have been. Like, the babysitter giving the kids alcohol. So that was one thing that kind of struck me weird on this episode. And then here's one thing that I did notice earlier that I wanted to bring to you guys' attention too. Look at the fireplace. The fan in front of the fireplace, does that almost look like a little face in the middle of that? In front of the flowers.
It did. I'm at the liquor part.
If you go a little bit forward.
Yep, I see. So
you see it?
I see it now as you pointed it out.
Like that stood out to me.
What caught my eye in this is the vase that's on the shelf on the mantle, the blue and white vase.
The tall one?
The tall one. That style, she has that vase. There's a lot of plates that have that blue and white kind of floral pattern to it. There's the vase on the mantle, there's plates on the walls, there's stuff in the kitchen, and there's a lot of those. And I told you guys I've been, binging through the Fox X-Men lately. And in the X-Mansion, there's that same style of pottery everywhere. If you just kind of watch it by the stairwells and in the hallways on tables, there's that same pattern. And it could be a reaching thing, but it's just something that that caught my eye, that's showing up in both. And I don't remember seeing it in the previous episode. I remember catching it now as they're getting into the 80s, as they're kind of getting into where Xavier's school will be kind of getting into full swing and stuff, that kind of same time period. So I don't know if it's just a style from that time period that everybody had this type of pottery around, or if it's something else there. But
And
if
we
you go,
all know that. Oh, go ahead.
I say if you go back and watch any of the Fox era X-Men movies, anytime they're in the mansion, you'll see those vases and pots and things everywhere of that same style.
And they could have acquired them through Fox.
in the
again,
takeover.
This was the Griswold's house. Yeah.
The hostile takeover. Like, we want the X-Men and we want your pottery.
Well, and then if you notice the window in the back, the little sitting window with the stereo and whatnot, it's stained glass.
Mhm.
Extremely 80s of the time. Because we know we all had that one friend who had a house like this.
Wasn't my house.
Wasn't my house either, but we had that one friend.
Does that by default make it my house?
So it's your house.
Yeah, it has to be now.
Okay.
That was your house, wasn't it?
Mrs. Justin, you are so lucky to be married to this.
You married into all this stained glass.
All the stained glass.
Stained glass fortune.
Stained glass Justin is what they call him.
Nickname in college.
Stained glass Justin. So then all of a sudden the twins get quiet. And that's amazing. Let's go check on them. They're gone. They are gone. And then they hear something behind them. And all of a sudden the twins are now 6. Was it 6 or 5? I think it was 6.
5 or 6.
5 or 6. And which I just thought was just really, really interesting that they went from crying to all of a sudden they aged up. They were 5 or 6. It was 5.
And not identical.
And not identical anymore, which is another big point. And we'll get to that later in the episode.
And creepy AF.
And creepy AF.
They go into the Family Ties type of opening. I swear those kids look like they're serial killers. I mean,
well, they all.
They really.
I know I shouldn't say that, but they're like, that drawing will haunt my dreams. So
they all look like they could be on the 6 o'clock news and with artist rendering as the caption.
Mhm.
So
have you seen this family?
When Justin is talking about the Family Ties opening, it's the drawn picture out of with like a pencil with graphite, and it's the pen that's coloring in, starting Vision's face. But if you notice the pen, the details on the pen, it's covered by Wanda's hex powers.
Yeah.
Which is extremely important. I mean, it is the Family Ties opening. But then to me, that this is a complete mashup of multiple 80s family openings. You have Family Ties. They started showing the pictures and started showing way, way, way heavy growing pains. It was a la growing pains, the pictures. So they went from Family Ties to growing pains. So they started with Wanda. And here's what was just creepy as hell about this, because I think they put an Easter egg on these pictures. So Wanda's walking around like this. They show like her as the little baby, just like on Growing Pains, cute little baby with an apple. Then they show her as a little girl. Of course, she looks like Michelle Tanner. But then they show her as a teenager. I think this is the Easter egg. I think this is Sokovia. If you look at it, it looks decimated. There's a Sokovian flag graffitied on the back of the wall. And then it shows it. I think it says Sokovia written back there too. But this place is just demolished, war-torn. But what's really important to note about this scene is it's just Wanda. It should have been Wanda and Pietro, her brother, Quicksilver. But it was just Wanda. And it almost looks like someone could have been in the picture with her with the weird angle she was doing, sitting there like
how her hand is off to the side.
Yeah, her hands and her feet out, like someone's like holding her almost, like or behind her.
Yeah, or someone's in front of her and she's holding
her hand.
on, so she looks all awkward with her legs out and arms out.
Right, because that looks completely awkward. So I think that was an Easter egg.
Well, and the flag is also in the toddler picture of her in the one before that too.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
Damn it. Now let me go back 10 seconds and look.
But yeah, it looks like she should have somebody there.
Oh,
to
it
her,
is, isn't it?
either to her left, where she should be holding someone's hands, or she's making that's the move she makes with her hand when she's about to conjure some of her hex power. You know, she's getting ready to
Right.
conjure up the ball of death there.
Yeah. And the apple that she's eating, apples are the national fruit of Sokovia, and it could also represent the red ball that she makes with her hex powers. One of those are actually true.
Are you talking out your ass right now? I'm like, apples are the national fruit of Sokovia? What? I didn't even know that one.
Even you?
Well, then you learn something new every day.
Somebody's been on
There's
the
an
horn
apple
with
for
the
you.
Sokovia Chamber of Commerce and Welcome Committee.
Or what's
what's
or
what
what's left
was
of
there.
it.
Yeah, I guess maybe you had a flyer or a brochure.
You had a flyer? That's mean. When we get into Age of Ultron, you'll figure out why that comment was kind of mean. But
If you're watching
hilarious.
WandaVision, I hope you know why that comment was.
Yeah, I hope so.
Or else you'll
So-
be lost.
Mhm.
But then we get into Baby Vision,
Which I-
which the Baby Vision was cute with the little stuffed animals. But then Toddler Vision just creeped me the hell out.
That's the
The
new Baby
picture of
Yoda.
her?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So remember how I told you what the picture is going to be for this Nerkie?
Mhm.
That's it.
Mm.
And then you have Vision at like boarding school, like solving this super complex equation, which I'm trying to figure out if those equations had any sort of meaning.
I'm not even going to attempt it.
So I'm
Sorry.
not going to attempt it either. I suck at math, but there's something that was I bet you anything that it meant something.
So do you think this is a nod to none of this is real? Because Vision wasn't a kid. Vision wasn't
Right.
Vision didn't Vision was just made in existence. And so by again retconning some of this and trying to convince the watcher, whoever that might be, I think it's really interesting because it keeps going back to this idea of Wanda trying to reinvent history, reinvent what had happened. And so I think that's a big nod definitely to that.
I think that this could be a nod to Vision's the sum of all his parts. He's a little bit Tony, he's a little bit Bruce. He's a little bit Ultron, he's a little bit Jarvis.
Just
I'm
like
wondering,
country and Kyle's a little bit rock and roll.
and Kyle's a little bit rock and roll,
Mhm.
and a whole lot of new chair.
Nude.
Dude,
Nice.
chair.
Kyle got his, if we didn't mention it yet, Kyle got his new chair finally.
So
if you want
happy.
to see nude in a chair, make sure
Nude in a chair.
subscribe, like on YouTube.
Kyle, tell the listeners here, how far back have you gone in this chair already?
Oh, I've taken this thing so many places. I've had this chair every angle that you can imagine that you can have a chair. I have made this chair my friend.
My furniture.
Mhm.
So it's good for his growth. So one of the greatest lines that I've seen was Kyle posted this to social media, and one of his friends goes, "Can your fat ass fit?"
Barely.
Yeah, that was Kyle's comment, and it's
Like-
not being mean or anything. It's just I was just busting up laughing when I
No,
saw
it's
this.
accurate because it barely fits. I got the Omega. I should have went for the Titan. I think I can't add any more girth to these loins, or I'm not going to be able to stay in this thing.
We're not being mean. It's just it's fun because without missing a beat, Kyle just shot right back at him, and that's what our show's about.
My wide childbearing hips. That's what the show is.
Well, they're sexy. They are sexy, sir.
All right.
But then we had a complete nod after it showed Envision. You know, that's the end of the Family Ties, Growing Pains mashup. Then all of a sudden they're running in this park. This is a complete nod to a lot of the 80s episodes, but I think this is a nod to like Full House. I know the last scene definitely was, but I think them running, because I seem to recall in Full House, I haven't watched Full House in years, but them playing like frisbee or like with a ball, like a soccer ball or something.
They're like running through a park and there's a picnic.
Yeah, and they end
Right.
up picnic in front of their house.
Right. And then, you know,
Uncle
then you
Joey
show
was
the
sitting on
kids
T-Bars and yeah.
and Chili. And then you show the creepy little kids, Tommy and Billy.
These are real
Again.
children, Chris, that you're calling creepy.
You started it, sir.
You know, they need to know at some point. We're pulling the Band-Aid off that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I love how it goes. It's Tommy and Billy with an exclamation point. And then it showed a picture with Wanda and the twins and a birthday cake. And I lost it at this part. Then it had candles. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on there. So they were retconning their birthdays
Immediately,
which like it was normal. And you know, then it did like the full on picnic, which was the full nod to Full House, which I thought just came full circle. And what I really liked is they didn't rely on Elizabeth Olsen's famous sisters fame, you know, the two Gelflings. She didn't rely on their fame. If you don't you like that one? If you don't understand why that's funny, look up Gelfling and look up Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen.
or if you didn't realize that, you know, they were all sisters. There's that.
Yeah, or they're all sisters. You know, it just ends there, and then it goes back to like the Family Ties painting, which I thought this is a great opening. I really did. This has been my favorite opening to date that they've done.
You think we're liking these more because they're getting closer to our time?
I just think they're getting better. Because I really liked, don't get me wrong, I loved, you know, I Love Lucy. I loved I Dream of Jeannie. I love that that's the kind of stuff I grew up on. I remember going over to my grandparents and watching it there. Because, you know, that's what they watched. And I love those shows. But I mean, it could be, but I just think that they're just getting better. Like they tried to be like just as corny as possible in the beginning, just like the 50s, 60s shows. But then the writing's just getting, I mean, the writing's been good the whole way. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm going to take a drink of water. I know what I'm trying to say, but I can't, it won't come out right.
Well, if you think about like pop culture, especially during the 2010s run, there was a lot of late aughts and early 2010s. There was a lot of movies that came out that were, you know, throwbacks, nostalgia, and so they redid Starsky and Hutch, and they redid Baywatch, and they redid, you know, all of these. And so I think you're totally accurate with, as it gets closer to our generation, what we watched, you know, we it seems like we talked about this at one point, may have been on mic or not, but like when you think of who your favorite doctor is, it's typically the doctor you first started watching, Doctor Who, that is.
We will be doing Doctor Who episodes too.
And so
on that.
oh man, I will.
You've got 50 years of homework on that.
Definitely, I'll definitely add my 2 cents for that. But
Kyle, he thinks he's going to be on again.
It's really gets to what we're used to. So yeah, I think what you're saying is right. But to back up Chris, the shows are definitely getting better. So it's not just some weird 50s style sitcom where you're like, well, that's interesting. Like we're actually getting into a lot of the minutia of the story. So I think both of you guys are right on that.
We're a combo. That's why we're a good pair.
I changed my mind. Chris is right. No.
Oh.
Let's say Kyle. Kyle. Yeah.
How do I mute? Oh, I'm the host. I can mute Justin. Moving on. Irregardless.
Actually,
irregardless. See, he can't talk now. He's muted by an imaginary mute button. We go into Monica laying in the hospital. We know she's in a hospital. She's in a blue gown. Looking up. She's having flashbacks of basically being thrown out. She's getting a, I'm assuming it's an X-ray, and she's remembering her mom, Photon, and it's just going through flashbacks. And so they get this, I don't know if it's a CT or an X-ray. I don't know the difference. Doctors who are listening to this, which I don't know why the hell if you were a doctor, you'd be listening to our show.
there are. I'm telling you right now.
Doctor?
Is there?
Mhm.
Doctor?
Doctor.
Yeah. Medical doctors or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So medical doctors, yeah. But
That you know of?
Yep. I promise
Well,
you.
yeah.
Oh, all right. Or is these back alley people that you go get your pills from, you know, like from behind the alley because you
We
broke
probably-
a bone.
We have those too, I'm sure, but yeah,
One got all judgy.
yeah, they could be the same
look,
person.
look at Judgy. Like your copay doesn't cost 2 bananas. So we're looking at, we're in there, and then in walks 2 of our favorite people in this whole show, Jimmy Woo and Darcy. Again, I'm going to go off and say, I love the dynamic between these 2.
Yep.
It is great. I mean, they play well off of each other. We know Darcy's super smart and a super well-respected astrophysicist, but she's still Darcy. She's still this airhead.
Mhm.
In some aspects. And then Jimmy Woo is just, always smiling. I just love them. I want a show based off of these 2.
Well, I sent you the fan art movie poster of Jimmy
Yes.
and Darcy doing X-Files. After you didn't you bring that up last Nerkie? Somebody brought that up, I think. Where it'd be cool to
Someone
see
did.
that.
I don't remember.
Oh, it was the guy that can't talk. Oh, he can talk again. Never mind. Yeah. So that's actually out there. Somebody may have listened and stole your idea, Justin.
I would not doubt that.
Because he's full of good ideas.
If you're
He's
listening now, make another
Filled
one,
with God's love.
so we know you're out there.
Well, they're giving Monica back her clothes, which is awfully nice of them.
Mhm.
So we can only assume this is literally right after they picked her up off the field and she got knocked the hell out. And then here's where it gets interesting. The doctor brings up the scan and it's white. There's like a splotch in there. She's like, this was inconclusive. Something's not right.
They're blank.
Yeah, they're blank and, something's wrong. This is our first glance that Monica came back with powers. Or it could have been Monica's always had powers. They were just awakened. Is Monica a mutant?
I don't even know what test it is. That's what as I was watching this, I was like, what results? Why would it be blank? So I know not much about anything in the medical field. So therefore, I don't even know what it's supposed to look like. So
Right. But it was something, and Monica, I think Monica knows she has some sort of power because she kind of shrugged off when they were talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, and here in a little bit when they start talking about Captain Marvel too,
Mm-hmm.
he has a really weird reaction.
So, she gets dressed. They get back into the briefing room with Tyler. His name's Tyler, isn't it?
Haywood.
Yeah, Tyler. Haywood's a dick. I
Well-
don't like him.
Good call, Darcy.
Or Hayward, I think.
Hayward,
There you go.
Dickwood. Because he's a dick. I don't like him. But then they showed, here's where it gets, this is probably one of my favorite scenes in this episode. He gives it to Jimmy, and Jimmy's talking, and then they show the Sokovia under attack. All the Sokovia stuff. Then they have a picture of Wanda yelling in this angry crowd.
Did you notice that Pietro's missing in that?
Yep. Yep. Again, Pietro's missing. And then they cut to scenes of Wanda, like using her hex powers. And what I found was interesting was that if you look under her profile in that briefing, it says classified.
Mm.
I'll get to that here in a minute, what my thing is on that. So it's classified, which means that something is more than meets the eye right now.
She's a transformer.
She's a transformer. She's Optimus.
Wow.
She's optimal Optimus.
Hmm.
Well, and the whole time, the sitcom's going on, but then they bring on to Wanda Maximoff. Jimmy's basically saying she's not bad. The Avengers took her in. She's a hero. She helped defeat Ultron. And Tyler's like, oh, is she? Really? Because let's look at this. And then he brought up the whole when she demolished Sokovia.
And then Lagos and others, and he was just condescending to Jimmy the entire time too.
Yeah.
Is this where he asks if she has any? He stops him and says, "Does she have any like weird names?" He was
like the soup name.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting too.
Yeah, because she's never referred to as Scarlet Witch.
As of yet.
As of yet. The I'm going to rewind just real quick because I didn't catch this before. The bio page that you were talking about where it says classified. There is I just saw it. There is a classic Disney Easter egg on that file.
Is it Woody?
Nope. It has, you have your classified where you see the picture, then it has her bio info down there, her name and all that. The left of it, it's labeled as A113 data.
Isn't that the animation room?
Yeah.
That they use for Pixar and everything else?
Yeah. So A113 is in,
I did not notice that. Good catch, sir.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, that's something.
Where's that? Oh, it is A113 data.
Yep. That one's all mine. I didn't look that one up.
Noise.
Well, and here's the other thing that people might not have noticed. We know Wanda has hex powers. We don't know the extent of her powers yet. We know that she's somehow controlling people, but we don't know what. She's never been classified. If you look under her abilities, there is telekinesis, mental manipulation, and neuroelectric interfacing. So they've classified her hex powers now at this point. That's not all of Wanda's powers. Like in the comic, that's the tip of the surface. That's not even the tip of the surface. Wanda's an Omega level mutant. Omega level is the highest level you can get.
Is it level 5 in Omega, or is level 5 in Omega the same?
I don't know.
Because Jean Grey's a level 5.
Jean Grey's an Omega. She's the strongest Omega.
Okay, so there you go.
Legion is an Omega. Magneto is an Omega. Apocalypse is an Omega.
My chair is an Omega.
Your chair is an Omega. My chair is also an Omega.
But my watch is an Omega.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Bond reference. Boom.
Boom. Drop the mic. Then he's a dick to Jimmy.
Again.
And then, again. And then what did he say? He said, I don't like to speak ill of people. What did she say?
And Darcy said, well, I don't mind. He's a dick. But she said, dick, it brought in and interrupted it because, Disney.
Yeah. And then Monica starts, this is what I thought was interesting. Monica starts arguing with Tyler.
What if that?
I love this part.
What if that cutoff where it was stopping her from saying, it stopped her from saying dick. It interrupted with him saying terrorist. We have suspicions about Hayward anyway, that he's up to something shady. What if that wasn't just a funny line? What if that was some weird foreshadowing saying he's actually working for the other guy? He's actually a terrorist. and everybody just writes it off as, oh, that's the funny Disney doing their Disney thing.
Right.
But we do have precedent to where Hydra has infiltrated every major level of
Yeah.
Shield, so that should mean sword too.
Mhm.
Uh,
There's Hydra.
I mean,
Justin's calling it
Yeah.
now. I'm putting the words in his mouth.
there you go. That makes total sense because we know Shield was basically stopped, but we don't know anything about Sword. So Sword could have just kept on humming along without Hydra being brought out to the surface.
Right.
Very, very real chance that's
That's true. Well, and then we're gonna get into sword here after this next part a little more because I've got a statement on sword that I've figured out. So basically, Monica's arguing with Tyler that Wanda's not bad, and it's a big long scene. And then Tyler's like, "Really? Boom! Watch this." Brings up these video files, and this is what is the greatest part of here because now we know what happened. What are on the video files, gentlemen?
That is Wanda supposedly infiltrating Sword and taking Vision's corpse.
This was
Allegedly.
So yeah, it shows, and she's attacking them. It's a sword facility. She's attacking them to get Vision's corpse, and she takes it. What is significant about this is that this is straight. Number one, this was a one of the deleted scenes from Endgame. Number one, they just reused the footage, but it's still awesome that they did that. Number two, this is straight out of the storyline from the 80s Vision Quest from Avengers West Coast, where Vision was taken, came in to save him, and he was taken apart, and that's when he became Evil Vision, the Vision that's all white with no color in him, and he lost his memories for a while until he got reminded who he is. So this was taken straight out of the 80s comic Vision Quest.
Something
that
else.
answers questions too. Was Wanda just making this up? Was it? Did she create Vision out of thin air? Is this something? Well, now we know this is actually Vision that she has reanimated, and so that also brings huge questions into like what are her powers? He has a stone there, and so has she recreated the Mind Stone? Is she now a conduit of the Mind Stone and doesn't need the Mind Stone to? I mean, this kind of like what you're saying, Chris, at the beginning of the episode. This one scene, I think, opens up so many questions. It answers one question we know about Vision now, but then it opens up so many questions about her actual powers and how she's manifesting these Omega level powers.
Mm-hmm.
So you said this was a deleted scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
As an extra scene.
Okay, I haven't seen it from the extras. Just something that caught my eye from it. So you can tell me if this was how it was in that scene. All this security footage is kind of a blue grayscale, almost. There's no color to it except for Wanda and her utilization of the powers, and like one or two small machines that are showing red. So the only actual color outside of the gray blue scale is the red in this footage. You watch it. So I don't know if it was like that in deleted scene.
Which is see, and I've never actually seen the deleted scene. I had to find this out. I had to find this out. But it brings us back to how red is very prevalent throughout the series.
Yeah.
I think that's in reference to the Scarlet Witch, personally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The more we're going along, it could be something deeper, but that's the kind of way I'm thinking it's going. So then we have the creepy twins are standing at the sink with a bunch of soap suds in there. Wanda keep walking in. And
I hope they never hear this.
Sorry. The button on that scene was Darcy asking, well, what's going to happen whenever Vision realizes what she's doing? And I think that's a
That's
foreshadow
right.
to
That's
a
right.
lot of what's going to happen. And in a lot of ways, because Darcy's the one that found the television show, I think she is almost a surrogate for the viewer, because she's, you know, Monica comes in, she's like, I knew you, I'm a big fan, talking about how she loved her on the show. And so she's now become almost a surrogate part of us. And her saying that, I think, is also showing a lot of the questions that fans have. You know, does Vision know this is happening? Is he going to retaliate? Does he have the power to retaliate? You know, all of that. And so by her asking that, I think it's putting that either consciously or subconsciously into our minds, so that way whenever we see these scenes that are about to happen, then we're like, oh, something's about to go down. So yeah.
Well, and what's really, really important about this scene too, showing Wanda breaking into the sword facility, it shows they just retconned Wanda as a terrorist, because we thought she was a hero.
True.
You know, at the end, they just made, with retcon, the power of retcon, Wanda is now a terrorist. And this shows that Sword is the enforcers of this, and it shows that the Sokovian Accords are in play, and Sword is the enforcement arm of the Sokovian Accords.
Right.
Which you don't realize. You know, you kind of think after the snap, that it's all gone. You know, but no, it's in full play. It's in more than full play. I think this is like kind of dominating everything right now for Soups.
Yeah, and they even point out that she broke the Accords, but also Vision's living will. And I think that's really important, because it's showing that she, through this grief and everything else, she's not doing what her love wants done with his body and life. It doesn't matter. All that matters is what she wants. And that's a very dangerous place for a woman to be, really. No, it's a very dangerous place for anyone in the mind space that I don't have any empathy, or I don't have any caring about anything else. I'm only going to do what I want. And maybe she could run for president now, who knows? But yeah, I think it's a very interesting foreshadowing again. That whole scene, I think, is one of the most pivotal, because of everything that they share and the insight it gives into both Wanda and into Vision.
Right. So we're going back to Thing 1 and Thing 2 now.
Oh my gosh.
Front teeth missing. It's a vampire.
He is a vampire
right now.
So, you know, they're trying to hide this dog. Wanda's like, you know, it's the typical 80s formula. Kids want a pet. They're trying to hide it. And I don't remember the dialogue that they talked about here after this between Vision and Wanda. Do you guys remember this part?
After
banner back and forth
in with it, or comes in and they're talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, he's saying, because she says, "Why are you dressed so formally?" And he says, "I've just got a feeling that someone's about to pop in." And right then, that's when Agnes comes in, and he says, "Just like that," or about to pop in with something that we need, just like that. And so he's starting to see the pattern. He's starting to break down what's happening in these shows and deconstruct it to where, and voicing it to her. So now she's starting to understand that he's understanding. And that's really, I think, where we start to see the unraveling come through.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we have this in now talking to him.
So when Vision's opening the paper too, if you look at the back, it's a ad for like an old computer, like Commodore 64. But what's important to note is the colors of the two characters on there. One is blue, one is red. Why is this important? We'll find out here in a little bit, but just remember that one's blue, one's red on the back of this paper. And I was trying to figure out, it says local homemakers innovating recipes. I don't know what that played in there.
Something I read, and I haven't been able to pause it just right to see it because I have closed captions on, is when he folds the paper, the way he holds it a certain way, like home and makers, and it does something as a reference to House of M.
Oh, does it really? I'll have to see if I can find that. And then all of a sudden, of course, there's some sort of crisis in the house, and Agnes walks in with a doggy house. Agnes has some power to know when something's happening. You know, she's basically like, "Hey, I got something for your dogs, kids." And she forces a hug on the kids.
She has her brooch back.
She has her brooch back. And then what I just found hilarious when I found out that this was the Griswold's house is that damn dog's licking the light switch and then it starts sparking.
Oh, Sparky.
Yeah, very, very Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, not only the cat with the wasn't it the cat or was it
The cat. It was the cat that chewed the wire.
But then also Sparky was his nickname. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Man.
this
And then-
scene right here where she's, after she drops it off, I think it's right before the dog licks. So you have Agnes, Wanda, and those, the beautiful children. So I'm gonna play that guy. Since Chris is just calling him out. These are
You're calling beautiful. That's the guy you want to be right now.
Yeah, that's that. No, that's fine. That's fine, Jeffrey Dahmer. That's fine.
Children beautiful. Great.
So the centerpiece of that scene, like almost dead center,
Goes
is that damn tiger that's on the plate. There's a toy tiger on the plate in the center of the table that was there before the pigs. Okay, I'm on Chris's side now. Before the two little pigs,
You call them pigs.
before the two little pigs grew up, when they were still infant size, that tiger was there early in the episode. The toy tiger was there. Later on, we see her, she's cleaning up house. She's picking up toys and things. She picks the tiger up and puts it away. That tiger was there for the entire episode. Agnes makes a reference when she's rocking the babies, like, "Oh, you can't tame this tiger," something about being a tiger. And there's something with that tiger.
I thought it was cougar, but tiger will work.
It's got tiger stripes. If it was a
Tiger
cougar,
stripes.
that would just be hilarious.
Do you think that's Agnes's cat? She's
Ooh.
always has that cat. Do you think that's her cat that she's disguised into? That's how she knows what's going on.
That would make some total sense.
I kind of want to go back and see if that tiger's in any other episodes now.
Well, she talks about, there's the bunny in episode 1 or 2. The tiger could be that damn tiger is front and center when they show the whole family. If you're paused at roughly 14, 34, 35, that tiger is right in the center of everything again.
I still think the tiger is Ralph. So
You think so?
is Ralph. So
It could be. We've never seen Ralph. And there's apples in the picture again. What did you say apples represent?
the national fruit of Sokovia
Mhm.
and
So
hex powers. So I'm telling you, it's just coming back and back. We're gonna make this a thing.
She's got those
It is
weird
a-
brass decorations over her door frame. I don't know really what those are.
So do you?
I know what one
You know
looks
So
like.
did you think those are?
The
Did
one-
you think? Yeah, the penis. I'll say it.
You got 2 fish and a penis, and then something else.
So, do you think those are like astrological signs? Because
What?
like representing
Mm.
like Pisces, and that plays a big part in magic.
Yeah. Which sign is a penis?
Second from left.
No, I mean which astrological sign is a penis?
Oh. What's your sign?
I'd say Leo because we tend to be pretty big dicks. So I would Leo
So
is
it's
definitely,
it's a Leo then.
but it's also a lion.
It's-
So it could be part of the tiger lion thing. A
You
liger.
got Kyle on that one.
So you got okay. So you got fish,
trying to
penis,
think my
heart,
notes here.
duck, fish. I don't know what it is. I'm also kind of drawn to the drawings that are magnetized to the fridge. There's one that looks like something's on fire, like something's burning. The top left of the fridge.
Mhm. And
It's
then
a
a big
very
B.
disturbed children's. You got a B with a B. That one on the
So
top left.
Probably
when
for,
they were talking, is that where Darcy coined hex? It was, wasn't it?
yeah. Well, it's from seeing the perimeter of
Right, but
set
but
up.
hex became canon. Like her power has become the hex power,
Right.
just like in the comic.
Right.
Yeah.
That was because I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote that after.
And she's all excited when they refer to it,
Yeah.
as the hex.
Jimmy.
And Sparky, if I recall right, so there was a Vision miniseries where the dog Vision basically created the synthetic dog named Sparky, which he brought back from the dead because it was synthetic. So I kind of think this is a nod to the comic because its name was Sparky.
That makes sense. Well, to me, Sparky seemed very symbolic of Vision. And when we get into what happens with Sparky here soon, I think it's very symbolic. And Wanda is symbolic of the children. All the advice that she's giving to the children, she actually needs to be taking herself. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. But
Right.
I think definitely there's some type of symbolism with Sparky, whether
Right.
it's to that miniseries or whether it's reminiscent of Vision. But something pretty important here happens.
Right. So
Vaccine.
Wanda basically tells the kids, "You're too young to take care of a dog."
Oh, before that though,
Oh, what was that?
she makes the leash appear out of nowhere, or the collar.
That's
Oh,
right. That's
yeah.
right. That's right. And Vision gets onto her about that.
Freaks out, and again we start seeing that rift where Vision is taking a step back, deconstructing, and so this is not a sitcom. It's not just it's we promised that this was something that you weren't going to do, and yet she's like and he said when he points out Agnes, she even points out, well, she saw the kids grow up to be 10 years old, so she's fine. And all of these small little things start adding up, and this perfect
5.
utopia
She's
of
some girl to be 5.
is starting to break down because questions are being asked, and she's having to go back on a lot of the rules, if you will, that she set for herself.
That
So pretty important scene, I think. There.
that whole scene, like I said, because my mindset is still in X-Men because that's where I've been for the last several days. It was a very Magneto Professor X type exchange where we keep these things kind of hidden. We keep them we're not flashy with what we have, being kind of conservative with their mutant powers, and then you have the Magneto side of it of this is who we are and we're going to show it, and which is the Wanda side of it, oddly. So just that.
I don't really have anything to add to that. You guys covered all that.
Oh, the newspaper, going back, because as this scene wraps up after they grow up, because you're asking about the significance of the paper, he is.
We didn't get to them growing up yet.
When we get to that point, remind me about the newspaper.
Grow up once.
They grew up once already. So, okay. So they're asking, how old do we have to be to have a dog? Because she's like, you're too young. And she's like, I don't know, 10. And then Agnes is sitting back there with this pouty look on her face. And I don't know if this plays anything to do with anything, but if you look at the little jars in the back of Agnes, instead of like saying like sugar, like spices or like salt, it has I think it's French, like cafe sucré.
It is French.
It is?
Yeah.
The cafe something.
Coffee.
Which I thought was, I just thought was extremely interesting that, this is supposed to be this very, very, very Americanized household, but we have these French words in the back on this stuff, which I don't know if that means anything. Again, Marvel's got us so paranoid, like that doorknob, does that mean anything? It's white.
Mhm.
It's on this brown cabinet. So it could, it might not.
I saw a funny tweet this week. Someone said that they watched the first half unknowingly of the episode in German with German subtitles turned on, and it wasn't until halfway through that he realized that he had the German, not subtitles, but the voice. So it was putting it in German words, and he said he didn't really think about anything until like halfway through. And then the last line of the tweet was, "I think I have too much confidence in Kevin Feige." Maybe something like that, to where, we may have too much confidence in Kevin Feige if we're looking for a lot of small things, but so many times those small things are what have actually been the big things that pop up. So I say keep looking for
Oh,
Yeah.
No school tomorrow, Justin.
Oh, great. Like at all?
Classes are canceled. Yep.
I'll text my person.
Mrs. Justin.
Word.
Mrs. Justin.
But yeah, it's a snow day. Mrs. Justin. So they ask, and then they look at each other and they're like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And then all of a sudden the twins level up to 10 years old.
I like how you say it, level up. They cash in those
They're leveled
experience
up.
points they got in the last 20 minutes.
So did you guys catch? So the kids look completely different. You can't tell who's who at this point. Do you guys know the only thing that is steady throughout this?
That they're always demons?
Besides that,
Oh, no.
Your color scheme.
they're always wearing the same colors. Yeah.
The
Billy is always wearing red and Tommy's always wearing blue.
Hmm.
This is their superhero colors in the comics in Young Avengers. Billy's Wiccan and Tommy is Speed. This is also the colors of Wanda and Pietro.
Hmm.
Pietro always wears like a blue, bluish greenish, and Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, wears the red. So this has been established that this is their superhero colors. I think we're going to see Speed, and before the end of the series, the full-blown Speed and Wiccan. I think this is the start of Young Avengers, personally.
Could be.
So yeah, there we go.
This is
So they
now I can
level
talk
up.
about the newspaper because we're at that point.
Now you can talk about the newspaper. Yes.
So he is 100% purposely holding it folded in the way where you can see it just says home. Homeowners, it's folded over. Home is a big theme through all these episodes. The word home, the idea of home. It comes up a lot more later, or not a lot more, but in a very big way later in the episode, the theme of home. And so I do not think that's a coincidence at all. The way the paper is folded, the way he's holding it, where the only word that you can make out plainly is the word home on that newspaper.
I like it.
Just another little,
I dig
a
it.
little,
I go with it.
a little thingy there.
Little thingy.
And he's wearing a calculator watch.
We
so.
go out to the next, and which I noticed that too, which is awesome. We pan out to outside, and then there's Jimmy with 3 cups of coffee. So Darcy's finally getting that damn coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy's got the Jimmy Woo smile on him. And then Monica's in front of the board. And they're talking, she's talking about everything that's going on, basically, what they think's happening, about the Force Shield, all this stuff. And then I need a drink here. One of you guys want to take it real quick?
So
Not everyone at once.
she's talking about like how she can get back in. So she comes up with this cockamamie plan, because I've been wanting to say cockamamie for a while. Basically a mobile bunker on wheels that she can roll in, and she talks about the different types of metals and things that she would need for different types of protection from different radiation and attacks and all that. And Darcy, kind of has just this look, the Darcy look at her, like, well, it's plausible. And, she tells her, well, I can work
With all this radiation.
I can work with plausible. So she's looking for a way to be able to safely re-enter Westview at this point. Or theoretically, yeah, she can work with
And
theoretically.
But she's not sure if she's going to be mind wiped as soon as she goes in, because Monica has already said that she didn't really have control over her actions, and she felt like she was drowning type of feeling. And so if she goes in there, they were trying to think of, are you going to be mind wiped and just be part of it again?
And then they said because of the radiation, you would need some sort of, what did they say? What kind of engineer was it?
Well, she said she
she
knows an
said
aerospace engineer that's up for the challenge.
An aerospace engineer. Yeah, and she said, I know one for the challenge. Okay, you ready for my theory on this?
What you got?
I think they just introduced. I think they just introduced Reed Richards.
Was he an aerospace engineer?
He was an aerospace engineer.
Oh, I thought he was a scientist.
No, he's a scientist, but he's the one who designed their shuttle.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
Reed
okay,
Richards
that
is
would-
one of the smartest men on the planet. I think this is how they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four. I think they've had this set up since they even thought of the merger. But I think this is how they have just entered. Fantastic Four has entered the fray.
Okay. So in comes John Krasinski as Reed Richards.
Yes.
So is that going to be the Luke Skywalker at the end of the season?
I don't know, because
I still don't think it's big enough.
With this show. There's so many. That is huge, though.
It's huge.
Fantastic Four is one of the biggest superhero groups around.
I think it's
They
huge.
have-
They were the first.
But I think that they're going to want, if it's going to be, which I don't think she actually said Luke Skywalker. I think the article that ran called it that, kind of put the words in her mouth.
Skywalker-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think for you to have that level of appearance, it has to be something that everybody will grasp. Like, even if you've never watched Star Wars, you could watch The Mandalorian and you would know that was Luke Skywalker at the end. Like, even if you weren't a super big into all the lore. So that's why I'm thinking they're going to go with something that's instantly recognizable by anybody. And that's where my theory is still hanging with, Professor X rolling in and offering to help his services somehow, of controlling and teaching her how to use her powers. That's my cameo theory. But or
I
big
like
intro
it.
theory.
I can dig it. I think you're wrong, but I like it.
You're
I
wrong.
think you're wrong too. It's going to be Luke Skywalker.
Mm.
Mark Hamill. Browns.
Yeah, I really don't know who they're going to introduce that's that big. I think Reed Richards is definitely going to be introduced. I think we just got introduced to Reed Richards. But I kind of agree with you, Kyle. It's, he might not be big enough. Or was it Justin who said it might not be big enough? It was one of you two bastards.
I think it's big
I think it's still pretty big, but I don't know.
because he can grow.
He can grow.
Oh, so he can.
Listen, if we reference Mallrats, if you don't know why that's funny, just Google that. Mallrats, Mr. Fantastic.
What if they do
So
an
they're talking,
office
and
style
then,
intro for John Krasinski as Reed Richards? Like, once they get into the 90s, 2000, it's just they pan over to him and then he just looks at the camera.
Because Jimmy actually did play John Krasinski on The Office. So there's an episode where they try to trick Dwight into thinking that John Krasinski has actually always been an Asian man. If you haven't seen that episode, you can pull up YouTube. It's hilarious. But Jim and Pam pay his friend, who is actually the guy playing Jimmy Woo, to be John for the day, or to be not John, but what's his name on the show? Jim,
for the
thank
day.
you, to be Jim for the day. And they even changed out the pictures on his desk and everything else like that. And so, yeah, that would be an interesting time.
That would be great. That would just be such a cool fan
Right.
service thing.
Rainn Wilson comes in as the thing.
Right. Or they recast and Rainn Wilson is now Magneto. But he's Dwight Schrute as Magneto.
As Magneto.
Rainn Wilson as
awesome.
Dwight Schrute as Magneto.
So they're still talking, debating, and then Monica goes and looks at the little dossier board and then sees the helicopter. And she said, she asked, what was this? And they're like, it's a drone. It got changed once it's in there. And, you see the light bulb flicker in Monica's head. So she goes marching down towards, what did they call it? Costumes or prop or whatever. And then she sees her. Yeah, they see her bell bottoms.
Mm-hmm.
And then she does a scan on it and she goes, what? And then so she grabs Jimmy's gun and starts shooting it. And the bullets are flat on the ground. Like best bell bottoms ever. But she tells him this was Kevlar. This was my Kevlar vest and Kevlar pants that I was wearing when I went in. So then it just hits Monica that anything that goes in gets changed.
If it doesn't match with the times. Or
if it doesn't match with the times. And that's where they came up with it. Well, yeah, and then she asked, what was around during this time period? Then it goes to Vision and Computational Services Inc. hooking up this ancient computer with the with the red, white, and yellow wires.
Mm-hmm. It was an old Commodore, wasn't it?
I
think I read that.
I don't know what it was. I think. Oh, was it a Commodore?
Yeah.
So Vision sitting down, and what's the guy next to him? What is his name? I cannot remember.
It's not Herb. It's Herb is the neighbor. What is his name?
Oh shoot, he says it later.
He does.
Norm.
Was it Norm? Norm.
We forget that. Did you notice that? Like, when was this? Because really, internet wasn't something that was widely used until like 95, something like that, right? Somewhere in that range, with AOL and all of that. And so this is late 80s, early 90s, but yet he's, hooking up the internet and doing all that. So that it made me question the actual time period.
Right. And that I don't know.
The form of the internet's been around
know.
since the mid to late 60s. I mean, it was originally a DARPA project, or wasn't DARPA then, what became DARPA later, project. And it, you can even argue further back to some form of naval communications that were used, as far as just email itself, which, let's segue into that. So
a computer.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
A computer.
So,
I got the internets on my phone.
He gets the email. They fire it up, and Norm says, "What does he say? We've got electronic mail already." Yeah.
Yep.
He says we've got electronic mail already. And he does, they do the comic relief thing where he looks for the letter opener and all that. But what comes out of that?
Well, when they booted it up, there was 64K of RAM in there, which was just great.
All the RAMs.
And
they're on
continue on
computer.
Oh yeah, they are on a Commodore 64. There we go.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Okay. So Then all of a sudden the email comes up and it reads sword. It says, Dr. Darcy Lewis, findings regarding Maximoff anomaly. High levels of radiation present at perimeter. Effect on West G residents unknown. Please advise. And Vision just kind of stares at the screen. Well, then he starts looking around, and everyone in the office starts reading in unison. What was it they kept saying? Was it just please advise, or what were they saying?
They were just reading
the email.
But
Yeah.
it was all in unison,
Yeah.
right.
which then all of a sudden just struck Vision. It's further shattering Vision's hold on reality. What is their quote unquote, you guys can't see that or listening to the podcast, but I'm doing air quotes, his quote on reality, his hold on reality. A laser. But then he does this awakening on Norm, which this is a throwback. This is a nod to House of M. And again, I finally reread House of M again, and I was right on the No More Mutants. That was at the end of House of M. But there was a mutant in the name, by the name of Layla Miller in House of M. She knows stuff. That's her mutant ability. She knows stuff. Basically, she knows how all the timelines should be. She had the ability to awaken people with a touch. That's what she did to Wanda, and which caused Wanda's reality to crash, to crack. So this was a throwback to House of M, to Layla Miller. He awakens Norm, and Norm is just confused as hell. And then, oh, go ahead.
Well, freaking out because he knows what's going on but can't control it, just like what Captain Rambo said. So knows what's going on, and finally he's able to actually verbalize this, and needs his phone. He has to call his sister. His dad is not doing well, and his sister is taken care of. And so it's showing that these aren't people that are just, bit actors that don't have anything better to do, but she's literally kidnapping these people and putting them under this spell, so that way they can go through and act for this, which just further proves to Vision that something is very, very wrong.
Well, and the key words that stood out to me is Norm was telling how bad it hurts to try and fight this. It hurts, which to me means that it's psychological torture. It's the equivalent to torture, which means Wanda her war criminal status is just rising at this point.
Something that
this proves to us that go ahead. I'm saying this just proves to us that she's holding these people completely against their will and making them do things they don't want to do.
Allegedly, because there's a line in this exchange after I went back and rewatched it again that really stood out. So Norm tells Vision, "You have to stop her." Vision says, "Stop who?" And then Norm just keeps going on. "She's in my head. None of it's my own." He never tells him it's Wanda. He never answers Vision's question of stop who. And so that's enough. One of those things I'm talking about, they may be leaving just enough to make us, okay, well, yeah, that's Wanda. Or there's enough little doubt there may be something bigger than Wanda doing this. And when we get later on, I've got more to tack onto that. But he never answers him and says, Wanda. Norm knows who Wanda is. He saw her at the damn talent show. And so if she's in his head, he's going to know who's in his head. But he never answers the question when Vision says, who?
He doesn't.
And that one for later. I could be totally wrong.
Point.
But he never names her by name.
Then we pan out to, Vision puts him back in the trance. Wanda's talking to the kids. I don't remember any of this scene. Do you guys remember any of what they're talking about? It's something about training the dogs, but like I kind of glanced over this scene because I didn't think it was that important, which I shouldn't have because everything's important in this damn show. But
Well-
I kind of zoned on this part.
And this scene is where they say, you know, something about dad, and she said, "Oh, they're at work," and they say it's Saturday.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
and she's like, "No, it's not. It's Monday." Like, no, this morning it was Saturday. And she was like, "Well, he had to go to work." And so it's showing that children, just like with the hex powers when they're crying, children may not be susceptible to her powers. And that may be why there are no children anywhere. Something that Vision also says at one point.
Mhm.
And
You
so
can't
I think
can't
that-
control children.
play into next week's episode, because they said or the previews or whatever show it to be a Halloween episode, and so I think it's directly going to play into this scene. I think it is pretty important because it's going to play into next week's episode and see how she or if she can control. And if you think about Agnes too, what's the one thing she said whenever she was babysitting? She's like, "You can't control kids."
Mhm.
And so I think that also reinforces all of this.
Yep, I agree.
One thing Wanda says
She's
during
sitting
that,
on the couch. Just,
I said one thing she says during the exchange before they get while she's walking them over, and says, "Me and your father aren't always on the same page, but that's only temporary."
Oh, good catch, sir.
So
But he gets
Sparky.
I get nothing.
Hmm?
Gee,
Yeah, I mean yours is decent.
I see how it is.
Sparky jumps out of the kid's lap and goes run to the door and starts barking. And Wanda just kind of listens because they hear this buzzing sound, this droning sound. Ah,
oh, the drone. Oh God,
This is where it gets.
ah.
it's
Anywho.
funny.
Next thing you see, it's one of the old 80s Predator drones. Okay, it stinks. It's one of those old 80s Predator drones with the gigantic old Microsoft flight sticks. And Monica's piloting it.
And the reason why is because everything they had sent in there had been changed. So she came up with the idea, let's get something that's from that era, so that way she can't change it, do something like that.
And sure
See, I
enough,
don't think-
boom. it
I don't think the
wasn't changed.
drone is the only thing of that era they sent in. If we go back to the email, I think the email was another thing that they sent in that was of that era. They didn't. I don't think
The email?
Vision. The email. I think they planted that in, knowing Vision's working in a place where he's going to have access to computers. That's the thing. He's working in the most
And that
high
is
tech
of the
place and that email was of the times. I think the obvious is the drone. The subtle is the email. They sent that in trying to reach Vision.
Yeah, because Darcy was trying to reach Vision last episode.
Yeah. She was trying to do that through the radio, and so it was a
Right.
two-pronged attack. It was a pincer move with technology.
Pincer, if you will.
Entire movie is a pincer move.
Wow.
We'll talk about
Uh,
another time.
So she's talking to Wanda through the headset, and then they zoom in on Wanda. And Wanda's eyes just start glowing red. Again, the color.
Yeah.
The same color of her hex power, which means Wanda's powering up. And then Tyler looks at him and says, I believe he told him, take the shot, didn't he?
Which was a surprise to Captain Rambo.
And she goes, what? No, she's not a threat. And he's like, no, take the shot. She is a threat. She's a terrorist. We're taking this shot. And then all of a sudden, Wanda's hand, or it zoomed in on Wanda's face again, glowing red, and then it went blank. And then they all go running outside because did they hear? I believe they heard a noise, didn't they?
Well,
The
the perimeter breach.
Yeah.
The alarm started going off, and they mobilize. Like, I think this is the fastest I've ever seen our, a government agency ever mobilize.
Well, unless there's protests, but
Unless it's they have their little lasers trained on the force field, and it starts distorting and warping, and you see this shape walking towards it, and then out pops the witch carrying the drone. And as the drone's being dragged, you know how like you see like stuff on pavement being dragged, like you'll see sparks. This had her red hex powers when she was dragging it, and it was demolished. And what's really important to note is Wanda was wearing her Avengers costume, the leather coat, the boots and stuff, and her Sokovian accent was back.
see, that's the thing that I noticed too, because it always bothered me. In Age of Ultron, she had it really thick, and then every movie after it would come in and go out and come in and go out, and I would always be like pick on. But then for it to be so thick here, I mean, it's definitely on purpose, but I'm not under. I don't know why. I don't know why they would choose to have the Sokovian accent here. I guess to further differentiate between the real world and her reality or her makeup world. But yeah, what do you think?
I'm wondering if this was an early indication of her happiness. She starts rewriting the realities because of her happiness. She equates happiness to these TV shows that she watched growing up where they were always happy, had a happy ending, and they were all American. So I'm wondering, maybe that was it.
Good. I'll buy that.
Maybe.
Yeah. Did you see what was on the drone?
Mm-mm.
It's on the drone. If you stop it as she was throwing it back to them, it has Stark Industries on it.
Oh, does it really?
From the 80s, or 90s.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
80s, early 90s. It's a Stark. So what significance? And it also had a missile that was going to be fired at.
Oh,
So what significance does that have to Age of Ultron?
It's when they fired the missiles, and Wanda and Pietro were trapped for 5 days in the rubble with the missile.
Staring at the Stark Industries missile. So so that could definitely push her over the edge too, because she's already at a mental breaking point. And then having that that traumatic time brought back to her through this can just push her further over the edge.
I didn't catch that. Good catch, sir.
I got a good catch.
You got a good catch. So then, Tyler's basically yelling at her that, cut it out. And she's got all these lasers trained on her, moving around on her chest. They're just itching to fire at this point. And Wanda basically.
When are these government agencies going to learn that you cannot shoot superheroes / supervillains? You can't shoot soups with a damn gun. Like, it never. How often does it go well? Like, they've been in this game for a long time, but they're like, "All right, guys, let's well." But normally, more often than not, they're like, "Hey, we're going to draw down and we're going to dump lead on this superhuman." Did we not learn from the last, 30 times that they've tried? Like, it never works out well, but like, we're still going to keep busting out the same weapon. I don't know.
I think we know the answer to that already.
It's Obama's fault.
Thanks, Obama. So they're talking, and basically Wanda's like, you need to leave me the hell alone. And she starts powering up. Her hand starts doing the hex thing, and Monica is like, whoa, Wanda, don't do this. You don't want to do this. I thought it was a great speech, just the interaction between the two. And
Yeah.
Wanda just looks at her cold. I mean, there is no expression there. And Monica she looked genuinely afraid during this. And Wanda is just playing around with this hex ball.
Or it could also be an apple.
She's just playing around with that apple, which is the national fruit of Sokovia.
It is true.
Yeah. If you didn't know that, there's flyers about it.
Yeah, right now.
There's flyers about it again. So she's talking, and then Wanda basically tells them, don't fuck with my reality.
My home.
And then did you guys catch what the Easter egg was with the end of this speech when she got done?
No one will take it from you.
It was very Magneto-esque.
It was Magneto-esque. It's a throwback to the X-Men movies. When they all had the guns trained on Magneto with the lasers. And the way she flicked her hand as she's walking off, flicked her hand, and then they all pointed the guns at each other. That's straight off of that's a nod to the Magneto scene in the X-Men movies. And all their eyes start glowing. Was that Day of Futures Past?
I think it was the one after Days of Future Past.
Apocalypse.
Whenever they were, they all came for it. He had his own life and all of that, and they came back for him. Because I think that was after. It's been a while, so Kyle would be the one to let us know.
Well, I haven't got to that one yet.
Okay.
We'll get back to you next.
Just knew it. Next Nerkie, I'll let you guys know after I rewatch. I'll be done with that probably tonight. So.
But yeah, no. So it's a complete throw to Magneto, which Magneto is in the comics the father of the Witch and Quicksilver. Is this a foreshadow? Because now Marvel owns the rights to Magneto again. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the big one.
No, nobody said that leading up to this.
Yeah.
Oh no, I said Professor X. I wasn't saying Magneto. Never mind. Whatever.
X.
I'm gonna retcon and say I was actually saying Magneto. When I said Professor X, I meant Magneto. Okay,
I am glad I remember about 15 minutes into this when Kyle said Magneto. Like, I completely remember him saying that.
That makes sense that he would end to try to recruit his own daughter to help his side.
Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
That would definitely make sense.
So Wanda walks back into the force field, and then it starts glowing red, like hex red. I have another theory on this coming up. So now we go into the next commercial. Why don't you guys, Kyle, you loved this commercial. Why don't you explain your theory on it? Why don't you go into the commercial, then explain your theory?
Okay, so they immediately cut from the red force field scene, and you go to the typical clumsy paper towel commercial where, the kids make a mess, the mom's trying to wipe it up. They compare the paper towel to the next leading brand. Why are you using the next leading brand? It's so good that even your husband can use it. So they're still kind of continuing that theme a little bit through the 80s. And it's Lagos. For when you make a mess, you don't mean to. So the obvious reference there is the incident in Lagos where Wanda, in good faith, was trying to do something good and ended up killing a lot of innocent people. I mean, they referenced that way earlier in the episode. Definitely there, 100%, that's the reference. But that was not the only time that Lagos has come up. And in the entire Marvel movie universe, not just MCU, the entire Marvel movie universe. In X-Men Origins, in the Wolverine Origins movie, the very beginning when he's part of what were they called, Team X, right? When it was him and Wade, and there's like 5 or 6 of them. I can't remember all of their names now, but the original little band of mercenary mutants, they go to Lagos to get adamantium. You know, they go looking for the meteorite that had the metal. So I don't think that's the direct reference to it, but it ties in the two universes a little bit, where you have a slight nod to X-Men. You have the obvious nod to the MCU because it was brought up earlier, but the oft forgotten nod is to the X-Men universe as well. And that was a messy deal too. And that's where Logan ends up leaving the team because they were doing some shady shit and shooting and killing innocent people in the village because they wouldn't tell them, you know, the location of the meteorite to get the adamantium. So that was Logan's mess that he walked away from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch the beginning of that commercial, the liquid that's being spilled is red, bright red. And whenever they push it off, one paper towel gets it all and it's soaked red, but the other one is soaked red and it just drips off the edge of the table, almost like blood dripping off. And so I think it's the color that they chose and the style of how the commercial is shot, I think definitely lends itself to that imagery of blood, of gore, of death.
Also gives the imagery of ether.
Mm-hmm. You ready for my theory?
If you go, okay.
No, you're right. I think all the commercials, well, they're number one, they're referencing all of Wanda's trauma. Not just her trauma, but just trauma. In the MCU. I think each commercial references an Infinity Stone. Go back and watch them. Each one's a different color. This red is the ether. That liquid's even in the, like Kyle was saying, the shape of the ether is red. You had the Tesseract. You had the watch was obviously the time stone.
Yeah. It can be two things.
I think these are, yeah, no, it definitely can be. But that's just my theory. I think they're referencing the Infinity Stones.
Which means this commercial could be 3 things. You throw my half-ass theory in there.
No, I like your theory. Mine's just kind of a theory on top of yours at this point. Again, I could be
like a theory
wrong.
sandwich.
It's a theory sandwich. It's like a compliment sandwich. Let's see, something good, something good. Something bad. You have smelly dog farts.
Oh. Well, that's a great segue into the next scene.
It is.
Smelly dogs. Well, they were smelly God. No.
So we have,
I'm not going
to. We have a smelly dog because they're looking for the dog. They're looking for the dog. They're looking for old Sparky there. And Agnes, they're walking down the street, and then all of a sudden Agnes just pops out of this bush.
But before that, they run into the mailman.
Go ahead. Go.
There's something about the mailman. I don't have anything to hang my hat on it, but mailman's sus. Like there's something about that mailman. I think so, and I think he's popped up before.
Well, the way he
just
says, "Mom will take care of it," or your mom will find something like that.
She knows what to do, or what does he say? Your mom won't let him get far. It's too in your face.
I'm trying to pause it here to look at his name tag.
Oh. I think it may be European USPS.
I think it says Carter.
Oh, it does kind of look like Carter. I don't have my glasses. Okay,
which goes back to episode 1, the terrible disease that is being an aging nerd.
It does look like Carter.
I think it
Enhance.
does look like Carter. I think we're all Googling it right now.
Enhance.
I think it says Carter.
No, I think it's his carrier, like something mail carrier.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. He turns a little bit and you kind of see and looks like I think it's his carrier.
So apparently it's the same mailman that's in every episode that has weird lines.
He's got some news to deliver. Or some
That he knows more about
information.
Westfield than he shows.
Mm-hmm. And then Sparky.
And then Sparky. So she comes up. Oh. So there's a theory that it's Willie Lumpkin.
Willie Lumpkin.
Right.
And
Who's
like
that?
Willie Lumpkin was the Fantastic Four's mail carrier.
Oh, so they may have somebody. Is that the missing guy from the very first episode?
I
when
gotta.
They were looking for an informant or whatever. Why would
Jimmy
Swords
Woo
got
was.
extra. Jimmy Woo was looking for the missing guy. Nobody knew who he was.
Mhm.
Swords got interest in this, probably more so than just something weird happened, because weird shit happens in this world all the time now. Apparently, that maybe he's infiltrated in there, needing to get him out. They just can't come out and say it yet because Hayward's got some weird classified shit going on.
So I don't know. When we get towards the end, I got another theory who the missing person could be. But Agnes pops out. The dog's dead. The dog ate her azaleas, which we all know are deadly to dogs. And then the kids say the darndest things. What they say is, Mom, you can bring Sparky back. You can do that. And she kind of looks and she's like, no, I can't. They're like, yeah, you can. You can do anything here.
Fix the dead.
Yeah.
Which these kids, these little devil creatures, know a lot more than they're letting on. And then you show, a crying Agnes, her brooch. You can actually see her brooch now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The important thing here, two things. One, Agnes genuinely looks at her and says, "You can." So she doesn't even know all of the extent of Wanda's powers, bringing something back to life. But then also the boys try to age up. And so I think that's really important, because this is where I was referencing it earlier. This is where I think that Wanda is giving the advice to her kids that she should be giving to herself. And it's interesting that she said you can't age out of this. You have to go through this feeling and not have that cop out of aging out and just trying to go to the next emotional feeling or go to the next scene, if you will. But that's exactly what Wanda's doing. She's wanting everything just to stay, the same, and not deal with the, Vision's death, and deal with Pietro's death, and deal with all of these other things going on in her life. So I think that's really interesting. That they wrote that to where she's literally given the exact advice that she needs.
She seems like she's got a little disbelief when they tell her that she can. It seems like there's a brief moment that she doesn't believe it. Like, she doesn't believe that she has the power. She's got some of the same reaction that Agnes has, and then she kind of comes back too. So I don't know if there's like a denial thing, like she doesn't totally realize what she's done, or she doesn't realize that she's doing some of the things that she's doing, that she has gaps in her memory, like how Vision has, but maybe not to that extreme, which leads to the idea that somebody else is pulling the strings.
So Vision comes walking up and asks what's going on, and he's wearing the most 80s short tie ever. It's blatantly obvious with Paul Bettany's lanky ass.
It's as wide as it is
Yeah.
long.
It really is.
Cool.
Which is amazing. I kind of want that tie now.
Mhm.
Oh, you'd wear it.
I would.
So he just asks what's going on, and Wanda just kind of looks at him, and you know, she pans to the house. They're picking up the balls, and like, you know, everything from the table, but she doesn't touch the tiger. If you noticed,
It gets picked up.
initially,
Throws it in.
it does eventually, but you think that would be the first thing that she'd pick up, but somehow it's the last. Vision's washing his hands, basically just trying to figure out, you know, what's going on. And this is a pivotal scene in this story, because in it, Vision finally confronts Wanda about what's happening. And he tells her about Norm. And Wanda just completely blows it off. It's like, nothing's happening, you know? This shows it's not the first division, but it's the biggest division we've seen to date in this show between Vision and Wanda. So basically, Wanda's like, you know what, whatever. She starts walking off, the credits start rolling, and Vision is not having it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he says, what, we just go in there and watch TV and then you change everything over again. And so he's calling her out for literally what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and she does try to do that. And it's very meta. She does try to do that. She tries to have the credits roll up, and that's always the end of the show. And he's like, no. So I love that they had the credits roll, and because she's done. She's ready to go on to the next. But Vision has enough power and wherewithal to actually say, no, this is not how we're going to end this. I loved it.
Well, and then he's also he's calmer in the kitchen. When he walks out to the living room after the quote unquote credits roll, he is yelling at her.
Yeah.
And this is the first emotion we've seen out of Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to this degree. And this is one of the most pivotal scenes, I think, because I loved, because Vision is yelling at her and rises up into his flight pose, his attack pose. Wanda does the same. I mean, they're squaring up.
Yeah, because he changes from human vision to vision going through the door. That scene of them floating in the air was freaking amazing.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, I mean, Vision finally admits, you know, like, what am I? What is going on here?
What's outside of Westview?
Right. Like, that's the question. What is happening here? And that's when Wanda says, you know, isn't this enough? Our family, this house, isn't this enough for you?
You don't want to know what's out there. Isn't this enough?
Yeah. And then, is this where Vision asked about the children?
No, this is where he says that you don't get to make that choice for me. So he's directly responding to earlier in the episode when we heard that it went against his living will to be brought back to life.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make that choice for me. And even though they're arguing about something else, they're arguing about that for sure.
So, and then you start seeing Wanda's psyche just kind of fracturing more during this encounter, because she's slowly losing control over her control, if you will. Which this was just, God, this show is just so well done. It really is. Like, I was emotionally invested at this point. Like I have been since the get-go, but I'm talking this point especially, like you just feel bad. You just feel genuinely bad. And then the doorbell rings.
Well, this is where she
Well-
brings up about no,
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead.
and so that's
Yeah,
what I'm referencing earlier, that there's no children. He said, I walked to the playground and there's no children, and he's slowly but surely poking holes. She says, "You've never talked to me like this before," and he said, "Before what? I don't know. I can't remember anything before this, and I'm scared." So I mean, it's genuinely the Vision, him going through and trying to work a lot of this out, and her trying to deflect and deflect and deflect.
Right. And then that's when the doorbell rings.
Mhm.
And she opens up, and odds are, if you are listening to this, you've watched the episode already to listen to us dissect it.
And you could have watched it 6 times and then just to break this down.
One
Because this is the biggest spoiler of all. Go ahead. Kyle.
one important thing leading up to this, she is adamant that she did not ring that doorbell. That she did not make that doorbell ring happen.
Yep.
And I
then
kind of
Vision's
believe her.
like, whatever.
I kind of believe her.
I do too.
She did not make that doorbell ring
Um,
happen because of something that happens after the.
Consciously.
I was-
Consciously.
Subconsciously, I think she did, but we'll probably learn more about that. But it was
Next
interesting
episode.
that talk. Vision tells her, what you're doing is wrong. This is wrong. And so he's directly referencing all of this that's going on and telling her, not that, oh, it'll be okay, I'm glad that we're together, but no, this is wrong. And so now the love of her life that she basically created all this for is now against her as well. And I think that's going to have an adverse effect on her mental condition moving forward as well.
Mm-hmm. So she opens the door, and then just this shocked look on her face. And this, you knew something big was going to. I remember I started getting goosebumps at this point, and I kind of, rose out from the bed, like kind of on my knees, like a little kid just watching, see what it's going to be. And then all of a sudden, we don't see who it is. It pans out to Darcy watching the TV. And Darcy's
Perimeter
just
breach.
kind of like, what? A perimeter breach, right? And Vision goes,
The
who is
alarms are
this?
going
And then
off
you
like a
see
perimeter
this,
breach.
right? And you see everyone in swords scrambling. Then it pans out to the doorway, and you see this white hair. And I remember yelling out, I called it. I called this. I called it. And then one of the most iconic parts on here, it pans out and we see Evan Peters as Peter Maximoff.
Brilliant.
Not Pietro. He was Peter. This is Pietro from the Fox Marvel movies, the Fox X-Men movies, the ones where they could use mutants, where they were mutants. That's why this is so pivotal. Mutants have entered the universe. Any which way you put it, he has made it so mutants have entered the universe.
And every single one of the the Fox movies, just with his one appearance, are now all game. They can all be considered because of the over.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you notice, that's why they call them legacy movies now on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So mutants have entered the fray, which I was completely excited about. And they showed him, and then Wanda's just shocked, and he has this like Jersey accent, like what do you say? No hug for your brother?
Lost bro can get a squeeze.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then I love this part. And then they pan out to Darcy, and Darcy goes, they recast Pietro? Which means that on some level, Darcy knew who this was from the get-go.
Well, she didn't say it until he said your long lost bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Said they recast Pietro. Man, that's such a brilliant move. So
It really is.
Who was your favorite?
Does that make
so,
it as a like a universe crossover then? Is and we've kind of talked
Multiverse,
about this
yep.
off show as a multiverse thing, because when she says she recast Pietro, if Peter Maximov was of this same version of Earth, you would think that with what they know about all the suits that they would know who Peter is. But she still thinks he's Pietro. She doesn't think he's Peter that we see in when does he show up first? Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Wanda doesn't show up.
So a multiverse,
There's
or do you
no
think
Wanda.
it's a where they're combining? Because I almost see it as where they're combining, not necessarily a multiverse, but more of combining by having specifically this person come into, because usually with a multiverse, typically it's someone from the universe that we know, 616,
Mhm.
that thing goes to another, and it's like, what? This is so weird. And then
Like 839.
yeah. And so, but this is where actually someone is coming into the 616. And so, I don't know. I think I see it more as a combining of worlds and not necessarily a multiverse.
I think you're
Okay.
I think you're both right. I think that this is the
All right.
I think this is the opening to the multiverse, but this is going to be the muddling of the multiverse. This is, we're now retconning mutants into the fray. Like mutants have always been there.
Yeah. And they could take that back to the blink and the unblink.
Right.
That it caused some weird rip in the space-time continuum that merged the universes, and now you've got these two together.
Right. Or, like I said, I think you're both right on it. I think it's a combining of the universes, but I think she pulled him from the multiverse because of her deep-seated grief over her brother. It was so repressed that we didn't see Pietro in those pictures or anything else.
In this episode, she talks about being or having a brother or being a twin or whatever to the boys, I think, or someone. And in this one, she does not say that he was dead. I think when she was talking with, talking a couple episodes. Yeah, she was talking about him being dead when the whole thing about Ultron stuff came up. She talked about that he was dead. In this one, she did not mention he was dead. She said he was far, far away. And it made her... Which
means she pulled him from the Fox universe.
He pulled him or somebody sent him.
Yeah, because there was a perimeter breach. But he doesn't show up until Vision really pins her down with all of these thoughts of, this is wrong, why are you doing this? And so subconsciously it could be to, she's lost one love, now she needs another love to come, something to make her feel loved or normal or something again.
Right.
Yeah, because Vision does kind of hang his head when he shows up.
Yeah.
Like he's a little slightly defeated.
Yeah.
She gives him a hug at the end, which now I've also got another theory of, I think there might be another baddie that they're introducing because of this. I think that they might be introducing Kang the Conqueror in some way, shape, or form. Kang the Conqueror was an interdimensional, inter-reality bad guy who was a classic Avengers bad guy. Mm-hmm. He also had a major hand in the Vision Quest arc. Mm-hmm. But he may not be the big bad for this phase. I still think it's Wanda. I'm still holding that it's Wanda as the big bad. But I'm thinking that this could be their way of helping to introduce Kang the Conqueror as a villain for a future movie, like maybe for Young Avengers.
Or it could be setting up Magneto again.
Yeah, or it could be setting up Magneto, which I hope it's setting up Magneto.
That would be awesome.
Because we said that early in the episode that's probably going to be the Luke Skywalker moment. Is Magneto. I don't know if you guys heard that.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't, that's exactly what we said.
I believe I heard that. I believe it was retconned.
Yeah, for sure.
But and then we go out to the pixels again, and it's even wider out, like we were saying last episode. Every episode that those LED pixels get wider and wider framed out, you see more of the picture.
Oh, more of the picture of Vision.
Yeah. Do we have any predictions on episode 6, where it's going to go from here?
Before we get into predictions, let me ask, since Age of Ultron and Days of Future Past came out roughly at around the same time, so who is your favorite Quicksilver? Is it Aaron Johnson or Evan Peters?
I kind of like the Evan Peters.
Yeah.
The Evan Peters. So even though, what's that?
I was asking Kyle where he was on it.
I'm going with Evan Peters, solely based off that Paul Bettany is a huge American Horror Story fan. From
yeah, that's true.
No, that's not. That's a thing. But no, really, that's probably why I do like Evan Peters, because I was a big American Horror Story fan through so many seasons, and I liked how he played him. He's just cool. I just like it.
I've heard every set he's ever been on too. Everyone loves him. He's just a joy to work with. He's just a good guy overall. So I think that's why they're going to keep him around.
Well, I was glad whenever it was him, because, man, I so much enjoyed his performance in Days of Future Past and a little bit of Apocalypse. He didn't get as much in Apocalypse, but that scene with him running around and what was the song? If I Could Put Time in a Bottle, or
when they're
I could put time in a bottle.
When they're in the kitchen.
Yeah, different song.
Yeah, it was Time in a Bottle.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
But moving everything around, it seemed like it was something faster.
I just watched it yesterday, and I can't tell you what it was.
Moving the bullets around, doing all that, and with a song and everything else, that was just the coolest intro of any superhero, really, that I can remember in recent time. And then the rest of the way, and then I'm also a big American Horror Story fan, and so his characters on there are always so much fun. And nothing against Aaron Taylor Johnson, but yeah, I'm glad that this is the one that they chose, not only for the actor, but also for the implications of what it means bringing the Fox universe into the Marvel universe.
Well, he was also the more fun Quicksilver, the Aaron Taylor Johnson, the kick-ass one. He was very, very serious, very tortured, very tragic.
Yeah, and I think that's more of like Joss Whedon's writing, because it really just didn't give him much of anything. And so Simon Kinberg, writing Days of Future Past, I think had a much more comic insight, if you will, I guess, into adding some of the fun comic aspects to the backstory and all of that. So yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you, one of my favorite Evan Peters scenes is, I think it was from Apocalypse, when he was going to the mansion and rescuing them all. And then he was taking the picture like with everyone and, wrapping them up, and he does the kissing thing. I don't know why I find that so funny when, he stops, he's going, and then he just runs on. I just thought he brought a great take to Quicksilver, more of the smart ass, which Quicksilver is in the comics.
Huge. Yeah. My favorite scene of his is in Deadpool 2, whenever they, walk into the X Mansion, and they're like, you'd think that you guys would actually have more X-Men running around here, not just two people in this whole mansion. And they walk by a door and they close the door real quick, and it's all X-Men from Days of Future Past. That's probably
I like it too. So
what's your Kyle? What's your predictions for 6?
So I think 6 going on. I've got a slightly, I don't know how plausible it is, but I'm going to try to stick with this theory. And so it's going along those lines of, I don't think they're going to slap us in the face with the obvious, what we think is obvious and what we think is going on still, even though we're still finding out, like, okay, now I know what's going on. Okay, now I know what's going on. I think what we think right now is going to get turned on its head. And that's going off the last probably the last third of that episode, whenever she seals everything up and the force field becomes red, when she seems disassociated with being able to bring stuff back from the dead, when she's talking to the twins about the dog, and then when she's surprised about her brother showing back up because she didn't ring the doorbell. I don't think she necessarily created Westview as her haven to live out the rest of her life with Vision. I think she knows there's something more menacing out there. And the force field is not to keep Sword out. The force field isn't to keep humans out. It's not to keep Shield out. It's not to keep any government forces out. She knows there's something big bad coming, and she's holed up in this reality that she's created to hide from whatever this new big bad thing that is coming. She's starting to feel the tug and her strings being pulled, and she's aware that she's not in control of what's going on. So she's trying to hide, and she's trying to protect the ones that she loves from whatever this evil force is that's coming in. And I think some of the elements that have been introduced, the twins, the things that she cannot control, are things that were introduced to her out of her control. That's why she was surprised with being pregnant. She's surprised with the twins. She can't control the twins. The stork, she can't bring the dog back to life. There's things that she can't control, and those, and her, brother showing up in that form is something that was completely out of her control, and that throws her off, and that's weakening her ability to keep whatever is trying to get in there that is not Sword from getting in, and it's eventually going to break her. And yeah, I think she still will become the big bad, but I think there's a bigger bad that's pulling the strings that's going to push her to that point.
Pulling the strings. It's a nice Ultron callback.
I got no strings.
Yeah. So I think Vision is going to be the one to stop. Maybe not kill, of course, but stop. And this may be another 2-3 episodes down the road, but I think Vision's the one, because he's slowly but surely figuring out. He's telling her how wrong it is, all of that. So I think Vision's going to be the one to stop Wanda.
I think it's going to go one of two ways. I hope that Evan Peters is going to be Quicksilver from alternate reality, from multiverse. But on the other hand, I kind of think he could be the missing persons that Jimmy Woo has been searching for, because they said he ran. No one's seen him. No one knows who he is. And Evan Peters just kind of showed up. Even Wanda was surprised. So I'm hoping my first theory is right on that. I think we're going to get introduced to the Fantastic Four. I think we're going to get introduced to the Cosmic. I think that we are going to get deeper into the Cosmic, because the past 2 episodes have been building up to Cosmic. I'm still holding on my Mephisto theory. I think Mephisto is in... These 2 jerkwads sent me a text. It was Kyle sent a text earlier, or a meme that had to deal with basically it said Chris, and what was it?
This is the butterfly.
Everything's Mephisto. Yeah.
Is this Mephisto?
Some jerkwads. I mean, they're not wrong, but they're still jerkwads. They got a good laugh out of that for about 10 minutes.
If he doesn't show up at all, I'm not mentally prepared to be able to console you for the next however many more phases.
No, you're not. I am going to be a sad panda.
I'm going to write a letter to Marvel. Not that I'm upset that he didn't show up, but I'm upset with the fallout that I'm going to have to deal with for the remainder of however long we decide to keep doing this show, of you being sad about no Mephisto.
I'm prepared to hold it over his head for the rest of his life.
That's a good balance.
And this is what Friends is all about, ladies and germs. Whose friends? I don't know, but there's someone's friends. I think that please be our friend. Please listen to our show. I think that we're setting up for the Cosmic phase. I think that we're setting up for Young Avengers. I think that we're setting up for the major break in Wanda's sanity, which is going to lead to House of M. And I think this is all going to start coming to a head in 6. That's my theory.
What, Justin, and you probably know too, Chris, there was always one of the numbered episodes of American Horror Story where it was always the big break episode where like the shit hit, was it 7 or 8?
I don't remember.
It was almost without a fail. And I'm just thinking that now because, now we got Evan Peters. Maybe we'll do some American Horror Story formula, and episode 8 is going to be or episode 9 or 7 or whichever one it was.
It was the same that was with Game of Thrones. It was the penultimate. So 9, not 10, had all of the major big things that went down, and then 10 was more of the resolution.
So we're only supposed to have 9 episodes, but then there's the rumor that Chris spoke of.
So it could be 7 if they follow that model. I don't know. That's interesting because it was always basically in American Horror Story, it was the second to last of the season. You really found out everything. So if 7 really doesn't give us much, and 8 just gives us everything, that might tell us there is another one coming. But since this is literally the first of the MCU on Disney Plus, pretty much everything's
open game. I just hope Dandy shows up from American Horror Story as a villain.
I just hope someone's wearing latex. That's all I wear.
I have a feeling you're going to be pleasantly surprised. It'll be Jimmy Woo.
I do love Asian men.
Yes. With that, we have taken up over 2 hours and 30 plus minutes of your time.
Ooh.
To be fair, this was a really long episode, and I think we were so damn excited about this episode, like we went even more in depth than we normally do. But this show's so good. I keep saying it. This show's so good.
This Nerkie was our longest episode ever.
We lasted. We really lasted.
Really had the staying power with this one. Stamina.
Well, the more you do Nerkies, the longer you last.
Oh. We need a shirt that says that.
The Nerd Kegels.
Actually, we can make that happen.
Can we?
Yes. I know someone who can make that happen.
We might be able to, maybe on Spotify. There's maybe a genre for that, but I don't think we can do that on YouTube. We're gonna have to find another outlet.
Well, I'll find one. Damn it! Don't underestimate me. With that, we will leave you with this thought. We really don't know what the hell is going to happen with WandaVision. This is just our theories. Whether we're right or not is up in air. I mean, some of us are way more right than others. Me.
I think we're all right. Just some of us are more righter.
The writer. Right is left is right. Right is righter.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Cats with dogs and.
Don't judge me. So with that, we will leave you here. We will do our next Nerkie next week on episode 6 and see if we were right or wrong on any of these theories.
You're right on all of them.
We're right on all of them. And with that, I'm Chris.
I'm Kyle. And thanks again, Justin, for joining us.
We appreciate it.
This has been Every Man's Guide to Nerdom. You guys have a great evening.
See you later.
Nerd could rise up. It could get elevated.